Hello, my name is Viviana Santana and this is my lesson for my interview. So today's lesson is going to be all about proving that all three angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. The standard we're covering involves proving theorems about triangles. So we're going to start today's lesson by looking at our learning targets. So we have 2 learning targets that I'm going to give you a chance to copy in your notebook real quick. So you're going to go ahead and copy down these learning targets. They say I can prove that the interior angles of a triangle sum to 180 degrees. That is the triangle sum theorem. And I can apply the triangle sum theorem to solve missing angles. So notice they have little empty boxes next to them. We're going to check off those learning targets as we go over them in today's lesson. Okay, you guys ready? All right, so for our lesson today, we're gonna need 2 pieces of paper, one at the very least, something to write with, and some scissors. So the very first thing we're gonna do is talk about how we might be able to prove that triangles, all 3 interior angles add up to 180 degrees. So what else can you guys think of that adds up to 180 degrees? So maybe typing some responses. Supplementary angles, yes, that's true. They do add up to 180 degrees. What else can you think of? Okay, transformations are 180 degrees, so like a half circle, that is correct. What else can we think of? How about a straight line? Yes, okay, so we're gonna use a straight line to show that all 3 angles add up to 180. So first thing, your piece of paper and something straight, maybe like a notebook. We just want to cut out a triangle, and this can be absolutely any size triangle. So I'm just going to use my notebook to draw a straight line. I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing right now. So I use this purple line to form this triangle, and I'm just going to cut it out. So yours doesn't have to be exactly like mine. If you don't have scissors, you could always just like fold and tear, but go ahead and cut out your triangle. And again, yours might look different than mine, and that's okay. So we're gonna cut the triangle, and as soon as you cut your triangle out, you're going to number the angles. So I'm gonna number them 1, 2, and 3, because every triangle, no matter what it looks like, is gonna have 3 angles, right? Okay, so we have our 3 angles, and then I also need a straight line. So it can be on that same piece of paper or maybe a fresh sheet of paper, but you're just gonna draw a straight line. Any straight line, and I mean this part, you can draw it, you can just use a straight edge somewhere, but all I need is a straight line, okay? So I have my triangle, and I have a straight line somewhere else. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I want you guys to tear off those angles. So yes, we're going to ruin a beautiful triangle, but that's okay. So you're going to tear off angle 1, tear off angle 2, and tear off angle 3, so that again, I have those 3 angles, okay? And I want you to place them next to each other on that line, and I will show you what this looks like in just a second. Okay, so instead of turning my camera, I'm just gonna go ahead and tape them down so I can hold up my paper. Okay, so I got 1 and 2 taped down. Now I got 3 taped down, and you should see that the 3 angles of your triangle actually form that straight line. And if we already knew that a straight line is 180 degrees, and we just showed that the 3 angles of a triangle make up a straight line, then guess what? We just informally proved that all 3 angles of that triangle add up to 180 degrees. So you know what we're gonna do now? We are going to give that box a little check. So this should be in your notebook. Make sure you give that a check, because we just did that. Okay. So the next thing says we are going to use that theorem to solve some problems about triangles, right? So I'm actually going to take my camera and turn it into a little document camera real quick. So bear with me. Okay, Okay, so here's our first problem, and you can take a second and copy that down. And I want you to start thinking, right, of how we might end up finding this missing angle here, right? So we're looking for angle T, right? I know 2 out of 3 sides of my triangle. So maybe we're thinking about some ways we can do this. Maybe if you already know how to find it, you're going to go ahead and find your answer, and I will walk you through it in just a second. So I'm going to give you guys some time to work on that. Okay, maybe we're typing some responses of how we might find this third angle, and hopefully we realize, well, if I have 2 out of 3 angles, then I'm just going to do, I'm going to add these up and subtract from 180. I like to set it up as an equation, so that maybe I put an x here, right? And I'm going to do x plus 43 plus 82 equals 180 degrees. I realize that's kind of hard to see. Okay, so at this point, I have an equation. You probably found it not using an equation, and that's okay, but I like to set up equations if possible. So I'm going to do x. I'm going to combine my like terms. That is what 125 equals 180. I'm going to subtract 125 from both sides so that x is 55 degrees. And again, if you found that that angle was 55 degrees without setting up an equation, that's okay, but setting up those equations, A, is a good refresher of our algebra skills, and B is going to set us up for success in later problems. Okay, so that was a nice, easy one to start. I got 2 more for you, so here is your next problem. Okay, we're solving for 3 variables, x, y, and z. So I want you guys to start thinking about ways I might be able to solve this problem. Okay. First thing I noticed is I actually have 2 separate triangles, right? I have maybe this one in green, and then I have this one in pink. Okay, so while that looks kind of scary altogether, I'm looking at it as 2 separate triangles. So if you notice, this triangle on the right, again, has 2 out of 3 angles. Okay, so hopefully we realize that we could just add those up, subtract from 180, or do x plus 39 plus 28 equals 180 to solve. Sorry about that. Somebody called my phone. All right, so here's our equation that we're going to set up to solve for x, because all 3 of those angles added up is going to equal 180. So I'm going to combine my like terms. X plus 39 plus 28 is 67 equals 180. I'm going to subtract 67 from both sides so that x is equal to 113. Okay, cool. So I have part of my answer, right? Now, is there a way I can use x to find y? Because I can't quite move into this triangle until I solve for either one of these. So I can most definitely realize that x and y make up a straight line, okay? And once again, that straight line is gonna make a total of 180 degrees. So very simply put, x plus y has to equal 180. I know x is 113, so 113 plus y equals 180. And all I have to do is subtract 113 from both sides. Okay, so y is equal to 180 minus 113. That is 67 degrees. Okay, cool. So this is 67 degrees. Okay, any ideas how we can find z? You got it. I can just subtract those 2 from 180, or again, if I'm getting practice with my solving equation skills, I'm going to do z plus 64 plus 67 equals 180. And all that will solve for z. So I'm going to do z plus, what is that, 131? Yeah, some mental math there. Subtract 131 from both sides so that z is equal to, what's that going to be, 49? 49, all right. So z equals 49 degrees. And there you have it. We solve for x, Y, and Z. Okay, so we're starting to use those triangles to solve for missing angles. And we have one more problem for you guys. One more. So I notice I have two lines here. Should have wrote this in here, but we can go ahead and assume these lines are parallel. So that means that all of our theorems about parallel lines and a transversal also comes into play. So first thing I notice is that I know this angle is 180, right? And once again, I have this straight line, these two angles that make up a straight line. So I know that 180 minus 108 will give me angle 2, right? So maybe I write it out like this. Maybe I don't set up an equation this time. That's okay. So if I subtract those two, 180 minus 108, I get 72 degrees. I'm gonna write that in right here, 72 degrees. All right, so if that's 72, okay, we're working our way around the triangle. Again, at this point, I'm gonna let you guys try this out on your own. But if we're just gonna go over it real quick, I see that if this angle is 67 degrees, let me highlight that one in pink. So this one's 67. These are two parallel lines cut by a transversal. I like to extend my transversals. Then this angle, 67, and angle 3 actually have to be congruent, right? Those are gonna be my alternate interior angles. So once again, this angle right here, 67, and angle 3 are alternate interior. That means they're the same. So the measure of angle 3 has to be the same as this one right here, which is 67 degrees. Gotta love parallel lines cut by a transversal. Okay, we got one more angle to find. And guess what? That's where we're gonna use our triangle, right? So I'm gonna do angle 1, so the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2, which is 72 degrees, plus the measure of angle 3, which is 67 degrees, is gonna equal my 180, okay? Same thing, measure of angle 1 plus 72 plus 67, that's gonna give me 139. And then I'm gonna subtract 139 from both sides. You guys got the hang of it, right? Right. Okay, and that's gonna give me, what is that, 41? Yeah, 41. And one thing you can do really quick, verify all three of your angles add up to 180. They do. So we just used the triangles to solve for missing angles of a triangle. So guess what we're gonna do next? We are going to check that box off because we did it. We're awesome. All right, so I'm gonna flip my camera around really quick. All right, we're back. Okay, so we want to make sure that first of all, we go ahead and check that box off. Okay, you guys are gonna let me know if you have any questions at this point. And I'm gonna go ahead and give you your follow-up activity, which would be something like a Khan Academy assignment. I really like to use Khan Academy in my classes. They're nice, quick, short assignments, 5 to 7 questions that evaluate whether the student's understanding or not. There's 2 of them that pertain to this lesson, so I would go ahead and assign both of those. Maybe they're due tomorrow, maybe they're due in a couple days, kind of just depends. But at this point, I would really fill out the class and see how you guys are feeling about it. Get any feedback. Maybe I need to do an extra example, maybe like the last one, because that one had a little more involved in it. But yeah, that wraps up my lesson on these learning targets. And I hope that wasn't too crazy with the camera. And yeah, see you later.